Hello, everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of the Crass Down Under podcast. My name is Nintendogen64, and you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Ratchet5.
And I'm CrystalFissure. I believe that the name Crash Down Under is one of the greatest names you could ever call a podcast. I think you two agree with me, maybe?
Yes, we are all Australians, so we are from
we
Down Under.
Yep.
Today's topic of discussion for the first episode is Crash Bandicoot, basically the future of Crash Bandicoot, because we haven't seen him in like 2 years, last game, and while Spyro, he's kind of popped up in Skylanders and disappeared, Crash Bandicoot just kind of like, he has just disappeared, just absolutely.
He has just disappeared. His last game was on pretty much like the iPhone platform, the Apple platform, and also actually that the where he was sold, he's actually one of the most popular iPhone games. Both Nitro Kart 3D and the sequel are two of the most popular iPhone games to ever be released. So right off the bat, I'm going to say that Crash Bandicoot still is popular. So yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. Crash Bandicoot is damn popular. Like I've seen. There's like this thing on this website. It's like Game Trailers, I think, and it's like like a whole lot of secrets from a whole lot of games. And Crash Bandicoot is like the most popular of those like secret videos. But the reason we're making this podcast really is because of the fact that a month ago, a picture appeared from Vicarious Visions of a Crash Bandicoot poster with a totally new design. And what most people thought was that he would appear in the next Skylanders game, because the last Skylanders game that was just announced was only announced 2 days ago. It's called, what was it called again?
Swap Force?
It was called Skylanders. Yes, Swap Force. Yeah.
Swap Force. Yeah. And so that was only announced 2 days ago. And as you can see, Crash Bandicoot is not in that game. So.
And I say, I actually literally breathed a sigh of relief. I was so happy because Andrew and I were speaking, Ratchet5 and I was speaking, and he was on the side where he was positive, or at least confident, that that Crash Bandicoot would be in the next Skylanders game, and I kind of took the side that maybe it wasn't, but secretly I was worried because the design kind of looks a bit Skylanders-esque, but I think that can be credited to the fact that Vicarious Visions works on the 3DS ports of the game, so they've probably got that Skylanders feel. You know what I mean? Maybe. I'm
pretty sure they actually made the last game. Toys for Bob did not make Skylanders Swap Force. It was actually Vicarious Visions. They've actually made the last game.
They did Swap Force.
Yeah, they didn't do a Nintendo DS port. They just made the game.
Well,
Because,
just the trailer, is it the trailer that's up, and like there's been no actual sight of Crash Bandicoot in it. Was there a side of Sin?
No, I don't think so. If Crash Bandicoot was going to make his debut appearance in that game, he would be
He would be in it.
He would be the title. He would be in the title.
Okay.
Skylanders, Crash Bandicoot.
All right, but Cinder from The Legend of Spyro was a fairly popular character.
No, but Cinder is nowhere near as popular as Crash
Cinder,
Bandicoot.
no. Okay, Cinder is popular to the Legend of Spyro fans, but you compare the Legend of Spyro fans compared to the Crash Bandicoot fans.
Yeah, and also you compare
no
the Cinder fans. That's not even Legend of Spyro. That's just Cinder, the Cinder fans to the Crash Bandicoot fans. So I still do think that there's a chance that maybe he will appear in a Skylanders game, maybe the 2014 Skylanders game, maybe.
It's possible, but every day that we see any new footage of the new Skylanders, I mean, they would not have a picture up of him so early for Skylanders 4. It would just make no sense.
Well, okay.
Oh, well, games are like, so very long in development.
Yes,
so.
but knowing Activision, who want to think, they would definitely try and put it into the third game. Because Crash Bandicoot, even though it's popular, he still doesn't have enough grabbing power to single-handedly make Skylanders 4 be popular. Skylanders is popular without Spyro or Crash, so there's no need to add him anymore. There really isn't.
Anyway, what were you going to say, Angus?
I said, that picture, the one picture that we have, how old is that picture exactly?
It's about a month old.
Yeah, it was
It is.
released in
There's a
January.
It is. The actual
Yeah.
picture.
But-
It was taken though. When was it taken
But
though?
the guy looks like he was like in the 70s, but I'm
Exactly.
pretty sure it was only taken about a month ago, or maybe back in December or something.
Couldn't have
It was
been
recent. It
like
was
It was very.
100% sure of that. Like,
It was. No, there's no discussion. It was recent. I
Mm.
promise you, it was recent. It was a new photo because it was in a context of something. It wasn't even about Crash Bandicoot. It was something about like behind the scenes thing, recent. And what happened is then people noticed the Crash thing and they quickly took it down. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So obviously they're
ah.
hiding something.
Yeah,
That-
see, yeah, I'm
yeah.
a little less educated on this Crash Bandicoot thingy than you guys are, but the prospect of a new Crash Bandicoot game, I highly doubt that if they made a new one, it would be like the classic ones. I think that they would have to gimmick it up somehow, just due to the fact that I don't think people are in the market for a strict, behind
Yeah,
the
well,
shoulder 2D, 3D
I mean,
platformer.
if you look at Ratchet Cortex, that's still a good game, and there's nothing really wrong with
Yeah.
Ratchet Cortex, but it didn't sell like as much as the first three games. So, I say that that I was saying to Fisher that the market hasn't changed that dramatically since the 1990s platformer days, but it has at least a lot for enough for Activision to not want to just replicate the old style because that does not sell enough copies as they wanted to sell. Because Rapid Cortex, even though it did pretty well, it didn't do as good as they wanted to do, and that's why they had to change things.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. No,
Crash the
that's very true.
Titans. I remember Crash the Titans did quite well, did it not? It did well enough to spawn a.
Have you actually played Crash of Titans, Angus?
I have played Crash of the Titans. I know about Crash the. Yes, I've never played Crash of the Titans. I'm just saying that did sell well, and that wasn't like the other ones, even though it did have Crash Bandicoot
Yeah.
in it.
Did you like it? I'm just curious actually because I've never played it.
Oh well, I didn't hate it. I mean, it's a fairly decent game. I like the idea of it. The only cause to reason I can see to dislike it is because it's not like the classic ones. And to anyone who hates it just based on nostalgia alone, go to hell because that's not a basis enough to hate a video game. On its own merit,
Be careful, be careful. That's our audience, Angus. Our audience are most likely going to be people that want us to really praise.
yeah,
praise
I
the old
know,
games.
but on its merit, Crash of the Titans is a decent game. Now, Mind Over Mutant, on the other hand, it's pretty much Crash of the Titans just done over again. There's no innovation on it at all. But I do like the cutscenes in Crash of the Titans, but that's not Crash Mind Over.
Yeah, I do like it too. Yeah.
That's something different. But
Yeah, they are good.
Okay, all right. Just to cut in here, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So, instead of talking about like what direction we want Crash to go in, let's first talk about the poster itself, the one that was released a month ago. Is he still there?
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, yeah, because we kind of just went through that before. So yeah, the poster, I think most of us can agree that it kind of has like an old Crash Bandicoot style, as in
Vibe.
he looks like old Crash Bandicoot, except he's been warped. He kind of looks like old Crash Bandicoot stung by a bee, and remember
In a way, yes.
yeah,
I can
how
definitely see
bee
what you mean.
hating, how he's like stung by a bee and he like looks like that. That's kind of what he looks like.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't
No,
have his tattoos anymore. I noticed that. He's tattoo-less.
That's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't hate the tattoos, but I mean, maybe it's going towards more of a kid-friendly kind of game, like a younger audience or
Yeah,
something.
because he does look fairly goofy, but I mean, what, that's what Crash was. I mean, people that I love it now. There's like people that say like about the old games, like Crash was so mature, man. No, if you've ever seen Crash's face in Crash 2, he looks like the biggest idiot. Like that is Crash's gimmick. He is a joke. He is a bandicoot. He's meant to be retarded.
I'd rather
You know,
he look goofy than look kind of
Oh, yeah.
cool like he did in Crash of the Titans. That kind of tattoo. Kind of like spiky hair. Like I'd rather he look goofy than he look cool, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, like-
I'm not enraged about that design. The only thing that would annoy me is if he actually was a Skylander. But another question is, do you think there's any chance that poster could have just been old concept art?
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking with the fact that the date of it, like, it doesn't look like a Skylander, and
Well, it was definitely only taken recently because there was a Skylanders like poster like right next to it, so it
well,
couldn't have been
okay,
taken in like
yeah,
2006.
yeah.
The
Well,
poster could have been old.
well, that's what I thought when I saw the image. I thought maybe the poster, or maybe it was taken a while ago. Then maybe that's it. It doesn't look like an old poster. Like the logo kind of looks a bit different. So maybe I don't know. But it does have the same font as the old one. So I'm not too sure about that. Maybe I don't know.
Well, yeah, one thing that is interesting is that the thing about this Crash is that, well, Vicarious Visions have been probably, but maybe on par with what's that game called
Traveler's
again? What's
Tales.
it? Travis Tales in terms of good Crash games, because see,
Yeah.
Crash Nitro Kart actually had two of the lead designers or artists or whatever, Charles Zambellis or whatever, who worked on the original Crash, worked on CNK. So if you look at like the first world in CNK, that the first both the first racing level but the first home world, you've seen that, right?
Yes.
It looks like
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot. It is completely Crash
Yeah,
Bandicoot 2.
I like CNK. I played a ton
Yeah,
of it.
and see, Vicarious Vision, I think they have absolutely that. I trust them to
Yeah.
make a
And they
really
made the
good look.
GBA games too, which were like the most
And they made,
original Crash
and on
games
top
that.
of that, one thing I noticed about and I think Enter the Dragon. I mean, no, sorry, I think that Wrath of Cortex is an excellent Crash game, but it doesn't look as Crash
Yeah,
Bandicoot like Nitro
I know.
Kart does.
I
Nitro
mean,
Kart
I
looks
remember something
just
that Tara Cross used to say. Tara Cross used to say that Traveler's Tales make the really good new Crash, PS2 games, but Vicarious Visions are the king of recreating Naughty Dog. That's basically.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So if jumping ahead, if they do make if like in terms of who may be creating a potential new Crash game, I am really damn happy that it's someone
Yeah,
like Vicarious
I'm
Visions
happy about Vicarious Visions too. I think they're good and
because they didn't sacrifice the integrity of the series. I mean, like, look at the CNK story. It maintain, they've still got the
yeah.
old Crash house. They've got the Crash characters. They live up to the tropes. Then you've got the GBA games, which follow continuity wise, just like very similarly to the GBA Spyro games, which also keep to the canon very well. So yeah, it's great. I mean, Vicarious Visions, fair play to you. I think that it's going to be good if they really are truly
And
making another Crash
I
game.
think that Crash Bandicoot, it's much more likely than Spyro to actually go back to its roots, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, Crash Bandicoot, like, I mean, Spyro, it's had two reboots, but Crash Bandicoot, the worst it's had is like, I'd say Mind Over Mutant. Actually, no, the worst it's had is not Mind Over Mutant, it's Crash Battalions, because Mind Over Mutant,
Yeah.
at least, like, it referenced the old games, like
Oh yeah, like
yeah.
there's that awesome cutscene where Embryo says something like, "I was in the first
Yeah, you
game."
never
I mean,
see that from like a Legend of Spyro game, like at all. So they just forgot about the original. Like, and Crash Bandicoot, I mean, the iPod games, right? I mean, they're still like that's Crash Racing just on the iPod basically. So it's still very much the old Crash. It's just a little
yeah,
bit
no,
different.
Spyro, I think, is eternally fucked. I
Yeah,
mean, like we can be honest, now they're kind of gradually moving away from Spyro. He can maybe come back, but realistically, the chance of that happening compared to the chance of Crash coming
yeah.
back,
Crash can easily
no.
come back. Like,
Crash can easily come back.
I mean, people whine about the fans who say, that Spyro might come back. Some people, it's never going to happen. But with Crash Bandicoot, it's very likely. Like, there's nothing stopping it from coming back, really. Like, there's if a new game, new Crash game was released on like the PSN and stuff like that, I'm sure people would buy it. It's not like back in 10 years ago where 3D platformers, you have to spend a year making them, and have this big team making them. It's different these days. You can make a 3D platformer much quicker, much easier, much cheaper.
Exactly. No, it's very true. I think that it's good because Crash is a series that he hasn't gone through such drastic change like Spyro had, where he realistically could come back and everyone would be excited. Where Spyro, they did like a new Spyro game, people would instantly be cynical. They'd be like, oh well,
Yeah, kids
if you
would be
get the
confused.
yeah, but Yeah. That's the biggest problem. Is it just doesn't make any sense for him to come back. That's why I'm so pissed at Skylanders taking Spyro's name when they didn't need to. There's no way they can do it without confusing 10-year-old kids, which are the demographic of Skylanders. Skylanders is not like the original Spyro. Skylanders is for children. Spyro is for children and older. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just has that playability. Skylanders is not. I mean, I'm sorry, Owen, who is on Crashcast, but it really is not a game that. I mean, it's like watching My Little Pony, practically. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it really is a kid's game. You know, specifically. You know,
Well, it's a cash cow game more than anything.
Really
It's
is.
just, I mean, we could talk all day about Skylanders, but
Yeah.
yeah. But, all right, now the next topic I want to move on to is like, if Crash came back, what would it be? Because I mean, would it be just a standard, 3D platformer game like the originals? Like, would it be, more like Crash of the Titans was, like more like combat based? Like, what would Activision do with Crash if it actually brought him back? Now, there was that game a couple of years ago, the one that was Radical Entertainment was going to...
Crash Bandicoot 2010.
Yeah. Now, the question is, if they were going to bring Crash back, why didn't that game go ahead? Why did they feel the need to cancel it?
I think this is based on the partial truth. What actually happened was, Radical had a lot of success with a series called Prototype, which I'm sure you may have heard of. You ever heard of Prototype?
Hardly, but...
Okay,
I think I may have heard of it.
You know, Infamous. You know Infamous?
Yeah.
It was kind of like maybe a slightly more violent version of Infamous. And see, it was basically Activision's Infamous. And so that game was, they wanted to do a second one real bad, Prototype 2. And so they pushed back Crash, and then eventually it just disappeared. The whole team was eventually split up. And in fact, that's what makes me, that's one of the most bitter I've ever been about Activision, because if you look at the footage or the game, the art from that definitely looks like it was going to be some kind of incredible Crash game, but it was ripped out from under them.
It looks like a DS version of Twin Sanity to me. That's what I saw.
Did you see the gameplay footage?
Yeah, I saw the gameplay footage.
That was a demo they put together in 2 weeks and didn't even reflect what the actual game was.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, no, don't worry. He's talking about a DS concept demo of the DS version of. Yeah. No, that's nothing like what it would have been on PS3. Nothing at all. So yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone know what that's called? Like the actual video at all?
No.
It's called like Crash Bandicoot DS Red Renegade or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Or it's actually called Crash like Loaded or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. It has a nickname.
Yeah. So, what do you think Activision would do with Crash if they brought him back?
I think it'd be a combat type game. Like, I think I really see that. Like, maybe maybe something like Twin Sanity, but more combat. I think that's kind of what I see it being.
I think that if they were going to bring back not Skyland, if they're going to bring back Crash, why would they do the exact same that they just did with Mind Over Mutant? Clearly, the reason why they didn't do another Crash game is probably because Mind Over Mutant probably didn't sell too well. And if they were going to really bring back Crash, and they were going to be, it was going to be under the developers of Vicarious Visions, I don't think they'd make it like what Mind Over Mutant was like.
Well, no.
Because Mind Over Mutant had plenty of elements.
I don't think it'll be like Mind Over Mutant, but I don't see it just being a strict spin, jump, slide affair. I see it being. I see Crash having like more like abilities and stuff, like in terms of combat thing, and maybe it'll be a platformer again. Like I see it being a platformer, but I
think. Sorry, go.
Well, just judging by that concept art, I just have a feeling that Crash may throw a punch in that game. It just looks like he has the design to throw a punch.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Well, like, do you think that? I mean, this is getting like a bit off topic here, but do you think that Skylanders, knowing how well it sold, do you think that it'll influence the market for children's games?
It has. There's a new game called like Disney Infinite or something like that.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
And it looks really good because it's a bit like Toy Box mode from that. It's a bit like Toy Box mode from Toy Story 3, the game, and yeah, obviously like that. So no, I mean that looks actually pretty amazing. And Activision, there'll be no competition or something like that because they're arrogant pieces of shit. And
This
obviously, I
bloody
guess they have to.
Disney with toys, it's gonna sell bloody well.
It's gonna sell bloody well. It's got the universes. It's got the Jack Sparrow from Pirates
I'm
of the
surprised
Caribbean.
they didn't do something like that already, but I guess they didn't have the toy idea, so they didn't think of it.
Yeah, I guess yeah. It is kind of surprising in a way that they didn't think of it first. But
Yeah.
I guess fair play to Activision for doing it first. I guess.
Yeah, I remember back in we're getting really off topic here, but I remember back in 2011 or whatever it was it 2011 when Skylanders was announced?
Yeah,
Yeah.
February
Yeah.
2011.
I remember thinking that, yeah,
Agree.
I remember thinking that, it might be big, but it's not going to be game changing really. The
Oh,
whole,
yeah,
toy
no.
idea, and it was.
Yeah,
It really was.
I thought when Skylanders was announced, I assumed it would be this like little thing, maybe a bit niche. I thought it would be niche. I didn't
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah, me
take off as much as it did.
Yeah.
I thought the charging for the toys would kind of hinder parents from. No, apparently not. Apparently, Skylanders
No.
is massive now, and I
No
seriously,
doubt.
I didn't see it being. I saw it being decent selling. I didn't see it being
Yeah, me
as
too,
big
yeah.
as it became. So yeah, props to
Yeah.
I mean,
Activision.
if you want to see how big it got, I mean, when I worked at my job at a department store, we'd do sales like 2 Skylanders for the price of 1. We'd have the entire entrance of the store was lined with Skylanders toys, and they would sell like crazy.
Like
People, they'd
hotcakes.
sell out. We would sell out of Skylanders. I mean, it's just so popular. But I just don't think that if you want to tie it into Crash, I just don't think enough children give a shit about having. I mean, like there's so many characters in Skylanders that almost look like Crash Bandicoot. You know what I mean?
But I almost feel like Activision, they have an IP on the shelf. They're not doing anything with it. So I mean, if they're not going to make a game for them, then their idea is, okay, let's put it in the Skylanders to get a little bit more sales.
Well, I tell you
But-
what. I was surprised that Crash Bandicoot wasn't in that PlayStation All Stars game or whatever.
Oh, that was big. That was because
Activision probably said this huge amount of money in PlayStation, no, I'm not paying it. So
Yeah,
Activision
I know, that's
wondered.
It's a travesty though that happened. Like, how does Parappa the Rapper get in this game but Crash
because
Bandicoot?
there's no legal disputes.
Yeah.
Exactly, but I'm just
There's
saying
no-
from a fan's perspective and from like looking back at the 90s, like Parappa the Rapper was more influential on the PlayStation 1 than Crash Bandicoot. Really, I don't see that.
Actually, to be honest, take back what I said before, about having Crash Bandicoot have to appear in the title. I could actually imagine Activision just putting Crash Bandicoot in, saying, "Hey, yeah, Crash Bandicoot's also in the game, so another reason you might want to buy it." I can imagine that they would do that. They're not going to do anything else with the IP, so they might as well put it in there.
See,
they don't even have to really advertise that he's in there. They just put him in there, and they'll get more sales.
what I could really see,
that would be the peak of fuck you, basically. To me.
Yeah, well, Activision, they're not above that, are they?
No, they're not.
Well,
They say fuck you every single day.
what I could see Activision really doing with it, what I could see him really doing with this is, maybe don't announce that he's in it at all, and then maybe a month or so after the release of the game, run a promotion for a limited time that you can collect the Crash Bandicoot Skylander or something.
Yeah.
I can see.
I think we're really grasping at straws. I mean, it's. I think the reason why you're saying that is because we know Activision to have done stupid, insensitive, bullshit things like that. But I think that while they are completely retarded at times, Activision, I just don't think that they would do something like that because that is so beyond the stupid that it would just it's
Well, I
so
don't
stupid
know.
that it's just.
It would.
No, there's absolutely no significance adding in Crash Bandicoot at all. That it does nothing for Skylanders at all. I used to be the type of person to think, oh, Skylanders has plenty of influence on the sales of, Spyro has plenty of influence on the sales of Skylanders. He really doesn't. It's just a name. Crash Bandicoot will add maybe 1,000 sales.
Yeah, well, I've said this many times before, but Spyro, I think, with Skylanders. I think that it maybe gave Skylanders a jump start. You know, a few kids went and bought it just because it was Spyro. A few, teenagers even. It
Yeah,
influenced the
cough
other
going
kiddies to buy it. Cough. Yeah, influenced the kiddies to buy it, and they bought it. I mean, maybe it probably would have been successful without Spyro. It probably would have, but I think that Spyro kind of gave it a little bit of a jump start, in my opinion.
Not too much, but yeah, I think so.
But I can imagine Activision just being money grubby and just putting Crash in because they get a little bit more sales. If they're not going to do anything with him, they might as well. So.
Well, I mean, Crash has been sitting on the shelf for how many years now? Coming up to 6 years or something.
Well, Crash on an actual console has been sitting on a shelf since whenever Mind Over Mutant was.
Mind Over Mutant came out in 2008.
So that's 5 years ago.
So 5 years now. 5 years is 5 years.
Fucking hell, that's ridiculous.
It's the same with actual Spyro on the console. 5 years as well. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But
actually, can I just quickly say something hilarious about Mind Over Mutant? Mind Over Mutant has like a South Park-esque cutscene. That's fucking awesome.
Well, no, it has a lot of esque cutscenes. Mind Over Mutant. That's like
it does. It's got hand puppetry. It's got Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, I mean, what do you think in regards to gimmicks? Do you think that the new Crash Bandicoot will have some kind of gimmick? Do you think that they're really that desperate to give everything a gimmick that they'll add some kind of gimmick to a Crash game if they release it?
Well, I don't think.
Maybe Sorry, you go.
I was gonna say I don't think it'll be like Spyro Skylanders Adventure to that extent of gimmickness, but
I agree.
I think it'll have some kind of like thing, like how Mario Galaxy has like the gravity thing. Like it'll have some major element that will drive the game. Like because I'm thinking about it. Crash Bandicoot is for lack of a better word, he's a cartoon video game character. And these days, the most highly selling games are the ones with real people in them, kind of. They're like renderings of real people in the games. So they'll have to do something with him. They'll have to do something unique and something gimmicky that'll make it sell a lot, I think.
I mean, they got two ways to go. They can go with the masses and do something gimmicky. But let's say they do something that's closer to Twinsanity and the originals. You get all the sales from the teenagers and adults. That because you just will based on nostalgia alone. But I think they have to do something a bit more than that. And I'm not against them doing something a bit more than that. But I think that it's not like they won't have success if they strip it down and make it basic. For example, the whole what's it called? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD that was recently released. Not everyone loves that game, but it pretty much stripped down, took it back to the original games, and it sold pretty well. Do you know what I mean? So people do like originals, and also the sales of remakes, HD collections, go mad. So if they were to create something that is similar to the older ones, there is definitely a market for it.
Yeah, just look at Ratchet and Clank. They just made very recently Full Frontal Assault. It was just basically the original style Ratchet and Clank games that sold. So why can't Crash Bandicoot? Why can't
Crash Bandicoot will sell?
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
yes.
As I keep saying, Nitro Kart 3D on the iPhone, one of the top selling games of all time, and it's just a basic kart racer.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
yes, but there's a difference between
iPhone. Have to radically change.
There's a difference between iPhone games selling and console games selling. The thing with the iPhone game is people like the simpleness of like a kart racer game on an iPhone is like that's like the greatest thing of all time. Like it's such a simple game to play on the iPhone, and also like it's fun. That's all that iPhone games are looking for. But back to the original point of will they put a gimmick to Crash Bandicoot? Well, Ratchet and Clank to start with was already kind of like it had a lot of gameplay.
That was a gimmick, yeah.
So, but
that was a gimmick. It was like the guns was a gimmick.
Well, it was like there's a lot of different guns and stuff like that.
It was a gimmick, but it was kind of a natural progression for Insomniac.
Yeah, I think it was a very good gimmick. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, exactly. But Crash Bandicoot is an older character. He's been around coming up on 20 years. So his gameplay was almost as simplistic as you could get back in Crash Bandicoot 1. I think they'll have to do something with it. They can't just have it as classic as it was.
Well, maybe the reason that we haven't seen a Crash game is because they don't really know what to do with him. They just they can't find a gimmick to attach him to, so they just
Yeah, but the last time they had something to do, and then the last time they had something to do, they cancelled it, which was Crash Bandicoot 2010.
Well, see, we're both Spyro and Crash and everything. You always need a gimmick to attach it to when you want to make a game. Like the last Crash, the last Crash reboot, if you want to call that, of the Titans. The gimmick was, let's make it combat. Same as Spyro. Let's make it combat, let's reboot it, let's make it like a dark story, in inverted commas. Same as Skylanders, So you always need this kind of like this big thing. And maybe they just haven't like thought about it yet. Like maybe they just don't know what to do with him. I mean, he is an outdated character when you really do think about it.
Yeah, I know, but like
that's true.
It is. It's something interesting. Like, why are we having this debate about bringing Crash Bandicoot back?
That's true.
There's a lot of other characters that have gone by the wayside in the past. I brought up.
Yeah, but you know what? Almost none of them are as big as Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot is sold over 50 million units.
Yeah, okay,
it's a very big series.
Exactly, but I mean, there's nostalgia for other things as well, like Pepsi Man. Where's the new Pepsi Man game?
Okay, that's very piss takey. Pepsi Man sold like 100,000 copies, maybe even less.
Yeah, I know, but you get
Pepsi
my point
Man,
though. Like Crash.
Okay, but okay, so let's think about this though, Angus, because Crash Bandicoot was bigger than Spyro. Crash Bandicoot was much bigger than Spyro.
Yeah.
But Spyro, for some reason, has lasted longer. Spyro is still going after two reboots.
Yeah, but that's because
it's still here.
When Spyro started, it was more revolutionary than Crash Bandicoot was when Crash started. You have to think about that.
Well, Crash was revolutionary too. 1996, that game. It was like, wow. It was like
I know.
Mario 64 was filling the quota of a new revolutionary game, and Crash Bandicoot 1 was filling the quota of a 3D Mario game.
Yeah, but when we got to the Crash Bandicoot 3 in '98, I think it had worn out the.
No, people still that game still sell a ton, and people
I know,
love that game.
But 1998, what would you rather be playing, Spyro 1 or Crash 3? I can say Spyro 1 without a doubt.
I don't know. I really like Crash 3, so I don't know.
I think it'd be very equal, but I think innovation, people would choose the new game because that's what people do. People love choosing something new. Well, especially back then, like if you would have seen like if you were advertised fully 3D levels, like like beyond belief, what people had ever seen before, pretty much, other than like Mario 64 or Croc or something, but to a more extent, because I think Spyro has some of the most detailed levels ever. People would say, wow, and maybe they still choose Crash because they had Crash, but a lot of people would have also chosen Spyro, so I think it would be down the middle in that regard. I don't think you really could pick one. They're both awesome. It's like, picking between, like, I don't know, cherry pie and apple pie.
But I do feel that if Activision, took Spyro this far, they did 2 reboots, like, they probably would do something with Crash soon enough. Like, I mean, if they were that worried about Crash, like, why didn't they just make that 2010 game? If they thought, Crash, we want to save it for something else.
Because that issue wasn't because they just cancelled it like that. What happened was they let off a heap of staff in 2010.
Oh, yeah.
So Radical were the one that got hit quite bad.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of people don't know much about it. And also, by the way, the game that we're talking about that was cancelled was nicknamed Crash Landed.
So that was kind of
that's right, Crash Land. Yeah.
What was the gimmick?
Yeah, and it was developed.
What was it like?
They had none.
They had none. Yeah. And all they had done on it as well was like the DS version was which is different, was worked on by Renegade Kid, another developer. And also I'd like to talk about one more thing as well. We're forgetting about another cancelled Crash game, and that was the Crash Team Racing 2010 game, which was developed by High Impact Games, which was also cancelled. So you guys know about that, right?
No, I don't.
No, I don't know that.
There's there's pictures of that.
Oh,
there's pictures. Yeah, and it ended up becoming one of the Shrek racing games or something, or like DreamWorks racing games. That's what it eventually became, something like that. But no, you need to have a look at. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Well, I mean,
really
another
like
Crash Team Racing game would be awesome, I think. Something we should also bring up is if Crash Bandicoot were to come back in a game, do you think all the other characters would be there as well, or do you think they'd just have
Yes.
like?
Yes, they would.
You think so?
Because we're remembering who. I mean, okay, Activision are a publisher, and they can interfere. But at the end of the day, it is Vicarious Visions that are making the game. They do the things like the characters and stuff like that. They are the ones that care about a Crash Bandicoot based on the games that they've made. Clearly, they'd be bringing back the other characters. I mean, Spyro Skylanders brought back Cinder, brought back Sparks. Do you know what I mean? And they don't even give a shit about Spyro. This will be a game that is about Crash directly. Of course they're going to care. Of course.
Well, I hope that. Who would you like to see more return to the game?
Well, in terms of obscure people, Papu Papu, Papu
Yeah.
Papu, Ripperoo, Crunch. Crunch is cool. Like, I know he's a new guy, but I like Crunch.
I'd like
Komodo
to.
brothers.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to see the
Maybe.
Komodo brothers back. I think they could do something cool with them.
Or like Pinstripe as well. He's quite forgotten. Or Koala Kong. Or
You know,
what? If
yeah.
want to do it as a joke, bring back Rillaroo from Crash
I was, I was,
Bash.
Yeah,
I was,
that'd
I
be
was
good.
just about to say that if they brought back Rillaroo, that would just be the most I would give him a round of applause for bringing back Rillaroo.
Fine. Rillaroo would get my sale
They
instantly.
should just make a spin-off game with just Rillaroo in it. I would buy that game.
Yeah, let's make Skylanders Crash Bandicoot and just have Rillaroo be the only character. And it's like, yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, I said I went by Sky.
They should put Rillaroo in Skylanders. Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, just keep him the classic design. He looks so like out of place in the game.
Why are we talking about Rillaroo?
Rillaroo is a fucking like.
Yeah.
No one understands.
I'm gonna choose Rillaroo every time I play Crash Bash from now on.
Really? What? Yeah, it's maybe. Do you reckon they would make new characters for it as well? Like, do you reckon we can see like a?
Well, they better not. Nothing new. We want old stuff, and that's
Yeah,
it.
I think they would make new characters. I think somehow I see Cortex not being the main villain if they were to make a new Crash game.
Oh no, they would do that.
I see him serving like another higher power or something.
It's like Bowser. It's just like Bowser. Like Bowser has to be the main villain for Mario.
I also see it kind of interesting how every single Crash Bandicoot fan game that pops up is like cancelled after quite a while. It's just kind of like, oh, we're gonna make a fan game, and then after a while, no, we can't bother anymore.
Do you think that could be because Activision interfere, or do you think it's just like people
lack
can't
of
be bothered?
lack
Because
of motivation?
have you ever heard of the game Chrono Trigger?
Yeah, I know. Chrono Trigger.
Very, very popular RPG. Someone worked on like this PC version of a sequel for years, and it looked. I mean, I'm not even a fan of it. Like the original was on like the NES or SNES or something like that. They made the original in like full-on 3D PC version. Halfway or like towards the end of the development, what's it called? Square or Enix or one of the two before it was Square Enix. Actually, or it might have been Square Enix actually began, like they say, we will sue you if you release this game, even for free. So like they really did not want this game being made. So there have been many times where fan games have been ended, but I no offense, but I think the fan games are pretty average, so it's not like Activision would be feel threatened.
Well, no,
I mean,
no.
the only one it threatened would be Crash Bandicoot Return, which looked pretty promising before it was canned. I mean, you can say, oh, it didn't look like Crash, but in terms of the environment, it looked phenomenal.
Oh, it did.
It
I
looked
totally agree. It's interesting, isn't it? The most prominent Crash Bandicoot fan game to be released in the last 2 years was Race Against Time. That's kind of
maybe.
Well, it is. Seriously, Crash Bandicoot Race Against Time got a lot of plays.
Have you seen the tech demo as well? Have you seen the tech demo for Crash Bandicoot HD, which is this one guy like spent like a couple months making this Crash Bandicoot universe. So it looked a bit like Jack and Daxter. It looked like one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and that was by one guy. Now imagine if Vicarious Visions worked on an original rendition of the universe of Crash Bandicoot, Insanity Island, and obviously it can have completely new levels, but seriously, they have the potential to do it. If one Crash fan could do it, then I'm sure that Vicarious Visions as a team could pull something off that's brilliant. I think.
No.
Do you think there's actually like enough fans out there for another game to?
Yes, there is. There is. You look at as I said, look at the popularity of Crash Bandicoot on the internet. You know what I mean? Like You know, I don't want to use Reddit as an example. Like someone posted about Crash Bandicoot, you know, on Reddit, and it was the top rated thing on gaming for like a couple of days. You know what I mean? I know that's not a huge testament to the popularity, but trust me, Crash Bandicoot generates buzz. Just like Skylanders generated buzz, and it wasn't really even about Spyro. You know, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, I
Yeah,
can say
exactly, yeah.
something. I do prefer the redesign of Crash Bandicoot to the redesign of Spyro. I think the
Yes, of course, yes. The last thing I want to talk about is just that Crash, unlike Spyro, really hasn't gone downhill. Really, like, I mean,
Terribly. Right.
no, because I mean, if you compare like the bad Crash games to the bad Spyro games, like, I mean, Crash will win, and you know,
No doubt.
you look at the GBA Crash games to the GBA Spyro games. You know, the Crash games hold up much better, and you know, to compare the Titans to Legend of Spyro. You know, like you can see that the Titans was much more, at least a little bit more loyal to the to its roots than Spyro was. So
Agree with that.
so I don't think Crash has ever lost its touch in a way like Spyro has, but for some reason Crash has been the one that's just kind of disappeared over the time, while Spyro is just
They haven't tried to reinvent it so many times. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
kept. I mean, even Crash Tag Team Racing wasn't bad. Like, I actually commend them for trying like to have like the platforming and racing. Like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
gonna
mean,
say, I
Crash
mean, it's
Tag
not the
Team
best game.
Racing wasn't terrible. I agree with you there, but
I mean, I'll tell you this, it made the hell out of me. I'll tell you that much. I mean, when I was a kid playing it, I actually really liked the game. So, you know, that's just me.
yeah, I enjoyed it a
So
ton. I played the hell out of it as well. But yeah, yes, Andrew.
yeah, so in conclusion, really, like the thing that we really have to say is that if Activision makes another Crash game, that's like the originals or maybe something a little different, then I'm up to buy it as long as I can.
You have to get. Would you
So
have? It would be on the PS3, wouldn't it? Would it not?
I don't know if I'd buy a PS3 just to buy a Crash
Well,
game,
how
but
would you
Well,
would you
hey,
play it then if it came out
I
on
don't
the
know.
next
That's
one?
a good question. I don't have any of the new consoles at all.
Yeah,
you would play PC.
well, I don't think it would come out on PC. I don't.
No, I don't think
Yeah,
I'm on
like
PC.
No, of course, PC. No, everyone like gets PC. PC games are many games come out on PC.
yeah, I don't see a
When
I
they
wouldn't, I
come,
wouldn't see a platform coming out on PC.
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that if Crash Bandicoot did come back, it would be in a platformer form with some extra gimmickiness to it.
yeah, I think that they could do a lot with it, and I think that the chance of them doing a Crash Bandicoot game now is high, definitely. Just because one, because of the secrecy regarding it. Two, the fact that when someone actually did discover the image, Vicarious Visions
Yeah,
of
because if it was like an old concept art, they probably just would have said, "Yeah, it's an old concept art."
there's nothing
That's
wrong with keeping up old stuff. No
yeah,
way paranoid about that. It is clearly something that they didn't want us to know about. It's their mistake, but I thank you for making that mistake. You're absolute legends. Now we can discuss it until
Mm.
Kingdom Come.
Well, yeah,
So
we should go and
when
Andy.
actually,
Hmm?
when do you think that they will announce something about Crash, or if never? When?
well, they seem to like to announce games in February. So if something was gonna happen this month, then it would happen before. Sorry, if something was gonna happen this year, it'd be before the end of the month, or maybe next month,
I
because
think
they always like to.
I think E3 next year we might see something. If we were going to see something, we might see it at E3 next year. But
You talking about E3 2014?
I
yes.
don't think so. Like, and Crash Bandicoot, they won't appear at E3.
2014.
Well, yeah.
Crash Bandicoot's not the kind of thing that appears at
No,
E3.
no.
I
Crash
don't think
Bandicoot will not appear in over a year's time.
I
We're
I,
not going
I
to be
think
waiting another year.
I think we will. I
Absolutely
think we're
not.
going to be waiting a year. I think. Sorry to break it to you, but I think it'll take about a year until we hear any murmurings.
There is no way that they would already have a picture of Crash Bandicoot up if they weren't going to announce it for another whole year. I just don't think that that's possible.
I think we'll have to wait at least maybe 10 months or something. I don't think we'll find out within the next month. I think that's a bit rambunctious. I think that's a bit too.
Well, I'm saying if there's going to be a game this year, it will probably get announced within this month.
I don't
That's
think
what I'm saying.
I don't think it'll be released this year.
That's what happened with Skylanders. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be
Yeah.
released this year. I seriously don't think.
And we have no idea about how long this game's been in development for, if there is a game. I mean,
Yeah,
it might have been like Skylanders.
one poster is a bit hard to make up your opinion on a new game coming out. Like, oh, this one poster.
This entire podcast has been about that.
It is. It has. The whole thing's been about one poster. We've actually been able to get the material.
Even bigger than the news of the image is the fact that Skylanders 3 there's nothing to be seen about Crash, which is great.
Yes,
that is the best news that we could ever get, because I mean, he does look a bit Skylanders-y in a way, or vicarious.
He just looks different. He doesn't look like he just looks like a cartoony. He doesn't look too different. Like he looks.
Maybe there's some kind of joke art or like if Crash Bandicoot was in Skylanders, this is what he would look like.
Well, maybe they planned to put him in Skylanders and then just took him out.
They're not going to do it. They're not going to put him in.
No, because the Swap Force, that was never going to be.
Oh, come on! Wouldn't you love to have a swap between Crash Bandicoot and Spyro?
Oh my.
Wouldn't that be like
you can't
fantasy?
The whole idea of swap.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's repulsive.
16 interchangeable people, though it's actually nothing. It's not like you can't just switch random
Come on,
people.
I think I would like to play as a combination of Crash and Spyro. That would that'd be a great Skylander, I think.
Oh my. Okay. Whatever. All right. Anyway, so I guess thanks for watching, everyone.
Listening.
Oh, sorry, listening. Yeah, okay. We're too used to like.
Yeah. If you want to check us out, we're all on YouTube. But
you probably came from YouTube to us though. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Crasscast is going to be. Who cares about YouTube? We're here on Crasscast. Follow us on Crasscast. That's what we want you. We want you to stay on Crasscast.
I just want to leave out on a question, and that question is: do you think that Crash Bandicoot is actually worth talking about? Do you think that this podcast was actually worth talking about something as so old as and outdated as Crash Bandicoot? That's my question to everyone.
I'd rather talk about how if the Gay Marriage Act is going to get passed in House of Lords in Britain.
Yeah, that's far more interesting. So
yeah, I'd rather discuss. Will they make a Dog's Life 2 on the PS?
Oh, yeah, that topic.
That's next week. That's next week.
Yeah, we got so much to talk about. So I guess we'll leave it till next time. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks
Goodbye.
for
listening. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Goodbye.
Subscribe to Crasscast.
Yes. Goodbye.